Gaio, wie ist das da für dich mit dem Ganzen? Ich glaube, er redet nachher etwa so laut und wird die Präsentation so halten, in der Lautstärke. Kommt alles klar und deutlich bei dir rüber. Es ist einfach wichtig, dass jetzt das Signal gut kommt und du kein Delay drauf hast. Hörst du kein Delay, kommt alles direkt schön sauber rein. Dann geht unser Weg auf und das wäre natürlich sensationell. Und wir können das Bier gehen. Warte, wir sind schon am Einpegeln und am Einstellen. Ich komme gerade Search. Das andere Mic ist nachher beim Gaio die hinten und hat es einen drauf, ganz klein.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Also, musst mal hören, es geht ein Zeitchen, es hat zuerst mal schon ein Delay drin und hörst du so im Audio, die Qualität ist irgendwie recht schlecht. Ja. Aber der Delay ist nicht so das Problem. Das ist spät streamt eigentlich. Das Problem ist einfach mehr, wie das Audio überkommt, oder? Die Qualität ist mehr das Problem. Also ich weiß nicht, wie du hast gesehen und empfunden. Ich finde, als ich die vorhin gehört habe, hat es relativ schlecht getönt. Dass es ein Delay hat, ist eigentlich nicht so das Problem. Also es geht mehr eigentlich darum, dass die Qualität des Audio schlecht ist. Oder so ein bisschen wie Halt, das ist mehr das Problem. Der Delay an sich ist nicht so das Problem. Ich weiß nicht, wie Sitzen ist. Ich rede ein bisschen weiter, mal schauen, wie Sitzen ist. Ob es irgendwie besser ist oder immer noch relativ ähnlich. Okay, super. Okay, yeah, I don't hear it. I cannot say if there is a delay or not. You can tell me, Anne. What about the delays in your ear? I delay. No, is delay. I don't know. I don't know about the quality. Anne. Hast du immer noch ein Delay? Also weißt du, der Delay an sich, dass es im Stream später kommt, ist nicht das Problem. Ist mehr das Problem, dass es so halt, wenn man es hört nachher, oder? Hä? Nein. Ist es so? Okay. Okay. Ja. Ja. Ja, aber ich meine, das geht ja wie, das geht irgendwie auf einen Server irgendwo auf der Welt und nachher raus in Stream, oder? Das kann man gar nicht verändern, die Latenz. Ja? Ja, ich auch nicht. Ja. Ja. Maurizio, hast du es vielleicht können lösen? Jetzt, wo du es rausgenommen hast, tut es immer noch delayen? Oder wie steht es mit der Qualität vom Audio jetzt? Hörst du es besser? Haut es immer noch? Ist besser? Okay.
So,
Anne, how about
so. Hallo.
how about the audio now, Anne? Yes, it's better. Is it okay like this? But is it better than it was before? Hay un delay.
So.
What about now, Anne? It's better. Okay, cool. Super.
Can you hear the
All right. Okay, está mejor.
Can you hear this one too?
All
Yeah,
right, alrighty.
Can you hear this? Sa.
See?
Sa. You hear nothing? You. Maurizio, wie geht's? Sa. Ja, dann muss man das jetzt. But yeah, sa. It's enough loud. It's enough loud. Okay, now the sound. Can you please something?
Hello. Hey. Hello. Hello.
But I don't hear it.
Hey. Yeah, sure. I can say some stuff. Hello. How about now? No. It's okay.
Yeah, I need you put more volume because that's his voice tone.
His voice is too loud.
No, it's not loud.
Hi.
Okay, turn it up.
Jeremy.
And now?
Nice to meet you. Your name?
Now it's loud.
Nice to meet you. Hi. Hey. Welcome.
Jeremy.
Yeah. Okay. Hello. How's this? Is this still bad?
Continue. Just continue.
I'm just gonna keep on talking.
That's good.
This is good.
Because there is a delay here and so it comes after.
Okay.
That's good.
This is good. All right. Cool.
So now it's good. So now we check the audio and it's good because it's the streaming video audio. It's good.
Okay.
And the local audio it's also good.
Okay.
But they also bring a second monitor, so
Okay. Cool.
now it's good. Do you may have the Wi-Fi? Or do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
need it?
I mean, yeah. I was able to get on the Wi-Fi.
Have your links, your videos?
Yeah. I have a link up, and then I can also play stuff on VLC player and
That's
stuff
what
like
you
this.
want? Yeah?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, audio file. Yeah, sure, no problem. Hello.
place when a slide moves. Every place I will find you. Every time we fell apart, girl, I see it in the scars. Baby, hold my hand. Let me be your man. Let me take you away from the cold. Baby, leave my diamonds and gold. Wander through the dead with you caught up in my head. Thinking I'ma flip and fill my brain with lead. I'ma end my life without you. Baby, let's just see what these clouds do. I'm not so perfect, baby, are you worth it? Come right here, yeah. Girl, let me see you work it. Now we closing curtains, come right here. Don't you know you're so sexy, the way you move your body up and down. I wanna tell you how beautiful you are, but you're nowhere to be found. Hey, I tried to protect you from my hands, you left you. Broke my heart right there. All I do is stare. No, you never fucking care. I thought you were different, telling me what isn't. I was wrong. I never thought of you as ignorant. Now I'm getting lifted in my soul. Baby, I'm about to die. Baby, wanna watch me die. Baby, don't you wanna know why? Didn't even try.
1, 2. Está listo.
Gracias, gracias. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining this fourth edition of the Textil Werkbereich Art Talks. It is with great pleasure that I will introduce you, for those who don't know already, Jeremy Nedd. Jeremy Nedd was born in Brooklyn, New York in the 1985. He's a performer and choreographer based in Basel. He studied the Bachelor in Fine Arts at SUNY Purchase College in New York, and it's currently at the Master in Expanded Theater at the Hochschule der Kunst in Berne. He received the Atelier Stipendium from the Atelier Mondial Dance and Performance for developed artistic research in South Africa. His work has been shown at Palais de Tokyo in Paris, Arsenic in Lausanne, ROXY, Birsfelden, Münchner, Kammerspiele, Tanzhaus Zürich, Bellward, Ballwork International Festival in Fribourg, Plastic Dance Floor in Versailles, and in Basel Theater. Nedd is a 2017 PREMIO finalist and is nominated for the Performing Swiss Award in 2018. So welcome, Jeremy. So he will present a series of works, videos, performance, and then we will have a conversation in which I really encourage you to take notes and engage in the questions procedure. Enjoy it.
Hello, can everyone hear me okay? Is this good? Hi, Jeremy. So I'm just gonna present a couple works that I'm actively working on. The first one I'd like to present, this is a piece called Remains. This was actually my thesis project at HKB, and essentially what Remains tries to achieve, or what it questions, it's so the question I pose is, what can extracting the physicality that's embedded in hip hop music videos, which I think is a hyper masculine performativity, which is attached to like the vocal and gestural delivery of lyrics, reveal once it's stripped from music and emotive vocal delivery at its core, and utilized to explore this concept of masculinity. So, in a space for experimentation, I try to reappropriate visual elements, physical elements from one specific French hip hop video, and then try to reimagine them in order to construct an idea of masculinity. So this is the piece. It's a couple images. Let me just make it a bit larger. Bam. So the idea behind this piece, I had a couple things floating through my mind, like what does it mean to perform masculinity? Like what does that like how do you do that? So I found myself turning to a lot of visual art references. I guess a big influence for this piece, even though it comes from this place of hip hop, was actually Bruce Nauman. This idea of a solitary man in his atelier, in his space, creating. This idea that, you know, in order to, not in order, but by just being in the space and being a man, that you're performing masculinity. So this is me alone in a space, a very empty, sterile space, attempting to perform masculinity. And essentially what I did was, it's probably another video I should pull up. I took one, as I said, one specific hip hop video. It's from this group called P&L. Anyone know P&L in the house? Blah, 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 blah. So yeah, P&L. And the song is called Ooh La La. And yeah, I pretty much just went through each gesture that they do in the music video, and I remembered it. So if actually let me first play the I'll go through these images. This is me performing masculinity. Men don't, take care of plants, so. That's me on the resolution, but this is a projection of me. If you can, let me just go back a couple images. What happens in the performance is that I pretty much record myself doing each gesture from the music video, and then I replay it. And then let me see if I can actually find that. I should have pulled that up already, but actually I can just play the video. Sorry about that. So yeah, this is me reproducing each gesture that's in this P&L music video, frame for frame. And the idea there was to, if the goal of the work was to perform masculinity, what would be the content, the literal vocabulary for performing masculinity. So I just decided to take this video, chop up all the elements, the scenery, the gestures, the attitude, and use it as a way to pretty much perform masculinity. So these are, let's see what's in, just gesture by gesture. Okay, now let me pull up the P&L video because I think it's a really interesting contrast. P&L. So another reason why I chose this video is because I think it's a really interesting performance of hip hop and an idea of masculinity. Because for those of you who know P&L, it's just two guys, two brothers, but they have this very a very interesting way of performing hip hop. Their entire, the way they carry themselves, the way they dress, they're very clean cut, very manicured. And for me, this video is special because it's a different performance of masculinity, because it's very, for me, it's super melancholic, actually. This video takes place in Iceland, and it's just them. If you didn't know the context of their relationship, they were brothers, you can think they were maybe, good friends, And for me, this is super interesting. So I wanted to use a source for constructing masculinity in this very sterile space here that you can, this is me doing the gestures, this is me trying to make Iceland a reality in the space. Yeah, this is the mountains of Iceland. This is the mountain ranges and grassy knolls. So yeah, that was the idea behind this work. How you could essentially from one source, from one place that's commonly associated with a very masculine connotation of or very hip hop has a very masculine connotation of masculinity, how this can be taken and almost, if you dismantle the elements, can be used as a template to perform masculinity. Like I took the gestures, I took the scenery, I took there's even a vaporizer, or not a vapor, a vape cigarette, a eat cigarette. They kind of just use this as effect to perform masculinity. And all of the plants and the rocks and everything, it's really heavy. So it's just idea of how far you can take this idea of just performing masculinity. So this is this work. I think this is all the images. 1 second. Yeah, that's me trying to smoke, and I'm not a smoker, so it's usually quite comical because I just usually cough all over the place, and it's quite embarrassing actually. But it helps me recreate this idea of not only performing masculinity, like, you know, you think of, you know, old school at like what's the name of this show, like Mad Men, like men in their offices smoking cigarettes and stuff like this, and it's just like the whole space. But then it also has this other layer where you can kind of like create the clouds of Iceland. So that's kind of what I was trying to achieve, this space that you can recognize a man doing masculine things, but then it's this element of hip hop, this element of like creation and, you know, deconstruction and reconstruction. That's me without a shirt, posing. Very manly moment. Yeah, things like this, things along this line. And then it has a very, like I said, there's also this side of, for me, this video is quite melancholic, and that's also what I see in the performance of P&L. This other more sad performativity of masculinity, so to say. Not everything they do is sad, but in this this video I found it very yeah, melancholic. So kind of gets to a bit of a darker place where this performance of masculinity becomes very internal, very introspective, and this is still using all the sources from this one music video, because on the computer what's playing is the music video. It's like being used as a light source. And then I try to transform this idea of performing masculinity, what it can kind of evolve or yeah, otherwise become. So this was Remains, and I thought it was a good way to lead me into this whole idea of performing, I guess, more of a melancholic form of masculinity. 'Cause also this image, just to go back, this is kind of not only an ode to P&L, but also like a bit of an ode to Caspar David Friedrich, like this moment of, you know, staring out into like the distance, and you have the, you know, on the mountaintop, and, you know, surrounded by nature and all this stuff. So yeah, this leads me to another work. Get away from this image of me. The next work I would like to put on the table is a work that I got to do at Belluard called Sad Boy Culture. Let's see. And I got to do this with my good friend and collaborator, Maximilian Hanisch, and another good friend and collaborator, Laura Knussel. I'm just gonna let this video play, and yeah, you guys, and then I'll talk about it.
Let you guys prophesy. We gon' see the future first. We'll let you guys prophesy. We gon' see the future first. Liquor soda last night. feels like a past life. Speaking of the don't know what got into people, that would be possessor. Homies demons try to body jump. Why you think I'm in this bitch trying to fuck the yarmulke? Acid on me like the rain. Weed crumbles in the glitter. Rain, glitter. Laid out on the spread floor. Away tough, no astro. Mesmerized how the strobes glow. Look at all the people feet dance. I know that your nigga came with you, but he ain't with you. The only human in is human in these barmaids. I mean my bars sticking on my jeans. We breathe the pheromones and rose. Sipping pink gold lemonades. Feel it? I may be your girl, but I look after you. We're not in love, but I make love to you. When you're not here, I'll sing song for you. I'm not him, but I mean something to you. I mean something to you. I mean something to you. You gotta roll it, yeah, it's only awkward if you're fucking too.
Cool. So that's sad boy culture. A little excerpt, a little funny moment. And this piece was kind of I wouldn't say a direct continuation of the piece I previously showed, but it was kind of this idea of still within hip hop being this kind of space for performing a type of masculinity, but then I really found myself in this interesting space of like what does it mean to be melancholic in hip hop? Like what is that, this whole like sad boy rap and vaporwave and all this stuff, what does that kind of mean in an everyday context? So with this work, me and Max and Laura, we really tried to find the, I guess the mechanics that kind of like make this work not only for the sad boy, but like if you think about sad boy rap, it's this thing where you market your melancholic state. You make profit off of your sadness, which I think is a really interesting situation because these guys, if like hip hop is like this kind of this hyper masculine space, which it's not just that, of course. That's just kind of what I put it as for research. Hip hop is much more than just a hyper masculine performativity. But if this branch, that's sad boy rap, if it becomes this this space for really showcasing a more vulnerable performativity, how do you perform that? What does that mean, like on a stage, on a record, for a public? So for this, we pretty much this is our, I guess, our reference to like vanitas, so to say, like this kind of, there was supposed to be a skull in there, but we couldn't get like a good skull. So, but this whole idea that these young rappers, you can think of like dealing with drugs and depression and really performing this, and it's really an interesting space to kind of navigate, or at least it was for us, to not to make light of it, but to see how you could perform that. How could you consciously put that on your record? How could you consciously wear that. So yeah, I'll just go through some slides, some photos beyond the video. 1 second. So that's Max. That's him with a bucket hat. Sad boy staples. That's me playing Dead, Go Sheet. Because for me, it's really interesting that these, it's interesting thing, this thing like sad boy. Like these are like, if you think about like, you know, young rappers. I think I don't know how old this one guy who was recently shot. This guy Triple Extension. I think he's, I don't want to say a wrong number, but he can't be much over 20. And that's really like sad spaces. And you think of most recently Mac Miller and like a lot of these, rappers who do battle with serious things, but then they perform it in this kind of like pop, light, catchy way, and then it's just like you're playing with death, and it's kind of like a funny thing to me. Not funny, but an interesting thing. Yeah, some more images. Yeah, Go Sheet, Dead. Yeah. Yeah, this was taking this whole idea of oh yeah, and the hoverboards. I'll explain the hoverboards. That's probably like really weird, no? But for us, we were trying to find a way. How do you express this idea of constantly being high, like of constantly floating? You just don't walk. So that was the idea. We were like, we just won't walk for this piece, and it was really, maybe it was a bit too consequent to a fault, but for the entire piece, we're just on these, we're on hoverboards. So it's kind of just how do you um yeah, take away, or not take away, but dissect this element of drug abuse, of constantly being on drugs, of how do you reimagine that for a theater without being like super sloppy, like, oh, I'm always high. That's not interesting. So we just decided, yeah, we'll just be on hoverboards the whole time because it's a lot of fun, let me tell you. And when I watch the video now, we don't look like we're moving really fast, but I tell you, when you're on it, it's ridiculous. You feel like you're going like 100 miles an hour. It's crazy. Yeah, that's me being sad in front of my computer. And then yeah, we play with face tats. I think face tats is a really interesting thing. Um, yeah, this whole thing of the other element of kind of oh man, what can I say about face tats? It's really an interesting element to me, 'cause it's this thing of it's decorative, but then it's completely alienating, and it's like it's creating this space that they want, that I assume, that I imagine, this kind of this distance, they as in the sad boy rappers. But then also it's also playing within this mechanism, this kind of, this marketing tool that, is very yeah, it's in trend, it's in vogue, and yeah, it's kind of a weird space to be in, where you don't know if it's this thing of you're performing this sadness, or you're really encountering this melancholic state, this really dealing with this stuff. So that's a very interesting thing for me. And then yeah, creating rain, creating like the melancholic moment in, outdoors, and crying it out. Yeah, pretty much. So yes, so this is Sad Boy. And then I would play one last video, and then I'll kind of explain why I played these three things in some kind of order. So I got to do this little it's called something through Münchner Kammerspiele, and then it's called, I think they called it shared spaces or shared X spaces. I should know the exact X spaces. Thank you. And pretty much what happened was they asked me and a bunch of other creators, performers to inhabit someone's space and then to make a performance there for like 10 minutes tops. And I was like, okay, sure. I don't know how to, sure. And then I had just finished this sad boy piece with Max, and then I guess I was really still into hoverboards because I was like, okay, it's super fun to be on a hoverboard. But then this whole idea of performing performing within a hip hop kind of lexicon, and then, you know, kind of deconstructing elements of performing masculinity, and then this whole thing of sad boy, melodrama, melancholia. So I'll just play a little excerpt from this. Is the video okay? Can you kind of see it? All right. Yeah. And I'm going to try and play the audio from my computer. So what you're pretty much seeing is it's also a bunch of clippings on the wall of bodybuilders, of I guess, you know, high level men, masculine specimens. So sorry, the angle's so weird, but it's literally in someone's room and the person filming is sitting on the couch, right, like this close to me. So
my face when I slide through. Every place I will find you. Every time we fell apart. Girl, I see it in the stars. Baby, hold my hand. Let me be your man. Let me take you away from the cold. Baby, be my diamonds and gold. Wander through the dead with you caught up in my head. Thinking I'm a flip and fill my brain.
And the idea there was to pretty much just I imagined, okay, so I'm in this room. What do I do in a room? So I'm working with this whole sad boy stuff. So I just pretty much made like a sad boy's room, like this idea of what would make a sad boy sad. Um, why what are you aspiring to? What's kind of the unattainable, so to say, in terms of achieving a certain level of masculinity or something like this, or a perceived notion of what it is to be masculine. So that was what was happening in this work, this very short abbreviated work. But the reason why I wanted to chain these together, because I guess the idea of performing masculinity, I think, especially right now, is very interesting to me, because we're living in a very in a time of kind of dare I say toxic masculinity. So I'm trying to figure out ways to, how do you, if it's to dismantle, if it's to deconstruct, how do you take what's in front of you as your references and your I'll say references, and try to take those elements and reimagine them, or to reconstruct them to kind of, I guess, a more, dare I say, a productive use of the elements of the template that kind of makes masculinity. So, or at least the conception of it. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on at the moment. And yeah, I guess I can open up for questions, or should I, yeah. Can't see anything because the light's in my face. So.
Is it on? Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy, for such an intimate presentation. It's a pleasure. Gracias.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to have some questions here. I hope you also had some. I joined you.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I was like taking my notes, and at the beginning you show like that your work has a strong influence in pop culture, and when you talk about performing masculinity, how do you deal with this appropriation of archetypes from mainstream culture that often don't acknowledge the femininity in the masculine representation? Is that hard?
No,
question,
that makes plenty sense. Yeah, that's something that really, I guess, I'm battling with, because I think in a certain way, that's why hip hop is an interesting space to me, because I feel like even a lot of the forerunners, or the premier female hip hop artists, I feel, really do adapt this masculine gestural physicality and performativity. So I'm trying to figure out, does that mean it's androgynous, this type of performativity? So yeah, these archetypes that don't acknowledge the feminine presence, yeah, that's something I'm grappling with, and I haven't really found an exact answer, but yeah.
Maybe you can tell us more about this constant statement about performing masculinity.
Hmm.
So then we can know what is your perception about.
Mm. Yeah. So for me, it means in the context of these works is that if these like if hip hop is an emblem for masculinity, I guess for like a specific masculinity that applies to say my body specifically as a African American male, what do you how do you take these things at face value that have kind of like really influenced me, and then you can see its influence and it's working in, like you said, pop culture. You know, it's a global thing. Like I decided to do my thesis in Paris because I felt like, okay, Switzerland's kind of has a hip hop flair to it, but I felt like in the streets of Paris you can really see this on bodies, which I think is really interesting to me, that it kind of does have this almost pedestrian, yeah, flair. So yeah, for me it's about this idea of how do you deconstruct, how you like dismantle, how do you take these parts from a source, in this case one video, and then just try to reimagine a different performativity. That's why I said like this thing of taking each movement, each gesture from the music video, if it could be like a new vocabulary for performing masculinity, but still does it transcend a hip hop performativity? I don't know, but that's what I went for, to find a way to reimagine these commonly associated gestures with hip hop, and then find a new way of delivering them, because in the actual piece remains, I don't play one hip hop track. I actually just play the soundtrack from the Hunchback of Notre Dame, because it's kind of funky actually, but then also it is this other layer of you know, this half man, this this yeah, this being. So yeah, a new way to view, to handle, to see that kind of, yeah.
For example, in your work, Sad Boy, you deal with melancholy and the constant consumption of drugs. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I don't know, we had a lot of talks about like the idea of like melancholia and like in relationship to um being a sad boy, and yeah, for us it wasn't so interesting to go the drug route, but it's definitely a part of, especially in contemporary dialogue, it's, you know, yeah, drugs, and it's you hear drug drops in every song. It's commonplace. But yeah, that didn't really interest us to so much perform being high, like at least like explicitly. So but this idea of depression, of being sad, of showcasing your sadness is really interesting to us, because, or interesting to me, speak for myself, but because it's, if you could take certain imagery that's supposed to be like your, like you performing, or you not even like removing performing from the whole equation, just being vulnerable, like this thing of giving yourself like, oh, I'm in the lowest place possible, but then you're consciously capitalizing off of this image, and then you're fueling it even more, so you can sustain this kind of I don't know, this performance, this lifestyle, this public, this crowd. It's really an interesting space, and I don't know anything about, because I'm not like a heavy drug user or anything like this. But
I didn't mean to
no,
ask that, but
I totally I didn't assume at all. But it is it's an interesting cycle, because I think at a certain point it's like you lose sight of what your entry point is to this state of performing sad boy, and I think that's what really interested us also.
Why you say you want to like take this idea of the masculinity represented in the, I don't know if, oh there, in the hip hop videos, and like change it to make it more human, let's say, or more less macho, maybe? Do you mean that?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I have my own interpretation. But the question is, why do you choose constantly melancholy? If you could choose anger, or you could choose happiness, or you could choose so many other emotions, why do you go specifically to melancholy? Why?
I don't know.
That's the question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe maybe that's my personal place. No, I think with Remains, it was definitely a bit more of a broader exploration. I think it ended in a kind of dark place. But I think maybe the reason why I find myself, I guess, drawn to this idea of melancholia, or just, I don't know, vulnerability or sadness, is 'cause I guess it's kind of what I don't know if I can say what I hope for, what I wish, but I think it's a space that needs to be explored or presented, because I feel like when it does come back to, say, my body specifically as a black man, there are a lot of representations that are very aggressive and are very borderline, it's violence in a certain way. And I think there are a lot of other not so violent presentations, but I think also, I guess, a part of my small mission is to kind of put my body in that frame, to kind of have that be a part of what I want to see from. I like that. I think maybe it's not a bad thing that you could express that you can express it, and not be this thing of nah, that's not cutting it. That's not manly enough, you know. So I think that's a big part of where my interest comes from as well. That is, it's just this possibility to express, and where that expression, I guess, melancholia is, like, the fun place to go, the fun place. But yeah, it gives the space to cry, to be sulky, to not have to, like, you know, be the bodybuilder picture, to just, like, stare off in the distance or something like this.
Yeah, retaking your question, yeah, I think we could say that you actually deal with the aesthetics of melancholy. And actually, I'd like to quote you that you said, the melancholy of dealing with yourself, like that your work actually applies to that struggle, no? Which is to work with yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I guess because a lot of these are, like, some of these solo representations. So, like, at a base level, like, myself, like what I represent on stage, yeah, is definitely, I wouldn't say it's a struggle or a fight, but it's definitely something that informs decisions and choices, for sure, that I make in what I do and what I put on stage. And how I want it to be seen, how I want it to be received, excuse me, and yeah, struggle. Maybe did I say that? I said that.
You say literally the melancholy of dealing with yourself.
Wow.
Sorry, I had to take note, man.
Um, no, cool, cool. I said that. That's cool. Um, yeah, it's more navigating a way to navigating a way that I want to express myself for sure with these past couple solo projects and yeah.
I think it's a constant contemporary subjects like consumption of mass media, consumption of substance, and the melancholy of the society in which you live. So, I'd like to ask you about if you could share us how has been your influence for your practice working abroad, and actually because you're actually from Brooklyn, and that's quite different from Basel, huh?
Yes. Nah, but I mean, my first stop in Europe was actually East Germany. I used to live in Dresden for a couple years, and then I found my way to Basel. But yeah, I think it's definitely influenced my work for the better. I think yeah, I'm super grateful for the time out here actually. In what ways would I say though? Yeah, definitely a more scenic approach. Like I'm doing this master, I'm trying to finish it up. Gotta finish this master. Um, um, but yeah, just being in dialogue with theater makers who don't come, because I come from a really classical dance background, and yeah, just having the space to and the trust to sometimes not make such physical works has been really nice. And so yeah, that's and nature. Maybe that's why everything is so like borderline melancholic. Cause yeah, I mean, yeah, it's nice to. I mean, there's lots of beautiful nature in New York. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like a 30-minute train ride away all the time. So yeah, definitely.
I have actually a lot of questions, but I like to open the questions. So if you like to join and ask something, in the meantime, I can make more questions. Yeah. So nobody's ready. Yeah. So yeah, I guess you're. I mean, yeah. Sorry, I don't see. But if you are interested to make any questions, this is yours. Not yet. Okay. So I continue. Yeah. So I guess I mean obviously your work has a strong influence in hip hop culture, in mainstream pop culture, and so on. And how do you deal presenting, let's say, your cultural context reference in contemporary practices, and also how is it this again this question about this transcultural context by of course Brooklyn, it's like a place in which you live hip hop and you live this culture that originally was a subculture and today is mainstream culture, but here we don't really have it. Like how is it for you?
Well, that's the thing. I think I think we do have it though. I think what's really interesting to me about hip hop as a phenomena is that like you see like I see kids like the way they dress, the way they carry themselves on the street. Like Switzerland has hip hop. It's total like that's what's super interesting to me. Cause P&L, I mean they're French, and I think I can't remember if it's maybe of Tunisian or Algerian descent. I'm not sure, but it's just I feel like also specifically chose P&L because I feel like it's just a testament to how global hip hop as a as a phenomena, as a way of life, as a state of being, dare I say, is global. And it's a whole nother weird conversation for me what that kind of means. But um I think it's what I really find interesting is that with a lot of these gestures that you see in the first piece, like you know them. Like it's you don't have to really put much context on it, but then you can see a certain position and pose, and you kind of almost automatically, maybe not, maybe that's my, bias, but you can trace it back to some kind of hip hop reference. I'm pretty sure that most of us, when we watch a hip hop music video with the volume off, we know where we're watching. We know where we're watching a hip hop video. It doesn't need it. I think you can even watch this P&L video in the mountains of Iceland, and you get the same vibe. So I don't think there's much work about me or work necessary to completely transfer over certain context, 'cause I feel like a lot of it's already there, and I think also a lot of the mystery that's there is also, yeah, a part of the magic. So
If you would describe us what is today hip hop, what would you say?
uh yeah, I don't, I mean, I know what I like, but then I think it's a ever evolving, like, especially now. I feel like there's this real interesting switch of what is popular, and I guess the like this new younger wave of rappers, like what these guys, I know half their names, like Lil Pump, all these guys, yeah, Young Thug, like I should maybe like be associating some of them in the same breath, but it's just like there's a lot of different, like it's different vernacular, it's different like expression, it's different gestures, different appearance, and that interests me a lot. That interests me how you can still be in that space. There's also a lot of queer rap that I'm totally on board for, and I really think like Cakes the Killer is like an amazing MC. So it's I couldn't really even say what's like where it is right now, but
And what are you currently working on? Apart, I mean, of the work you show us, are like projects that are finishing, and you're at the finishing the master in Berne, and what are your subjects of research there?
So I guess this topic kind of really consumed me in Bern, and then I guess I'm gonna try and find a way to bring this research over to the performance prize situation, and yeah, figure that out somehow. But yeah, those are where my topics are right now, within this realm of yeah, navigating a concept of performing masculinity, because it's, yeah, quite broad.
And one more question: what is the result experience of your research-based practice abroad in South Africa, in the residence you did? Like how it was?
Yeah, that was great. Um, South Africa, Johannesburg is the place to be. It's also got an interesting climate right now, but yeah, I think it's an interesting time to be there. Yeah, I was there working with. You guys familiar with Pansula by any chance? You know Pansula dance? No, no. Okay, maybe I can show something really quickly. Maybe let's see.
You were like for 3 months there.
I was there for, well, a month and a half and a month and a half, 'cause I kind of felt the necessity to go, and then to take some distance, 'cause I feel like as soon as this whole possibility of making a work in the context of South Africa is very yeah, it's a lot of things, a lot of questions, and you know, I'm coming there as a Swiss-based artist from America, so I really wanted to yeah, take my time going into that. So
And the residency is explicitly for do research projects. Like you don't have to produce, but you can just do research.
yeah, exactly. It was completely to do research, but then at a certain point, me and these guys got on so well that it really became this thing of doing a piece. And I'll play a little bit of Peninsula for you guys. They're really good. We'll see. We're playing with the idea of the ecstatic, I guess, in the context of, you know, religious ecstasy and stuff like this, what it means to kind of pretty much go to this point of yeah, exhaustion through ecstasy, so to say. Not the drug, but yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
planning to going back there?
At the moment, I don't have any plans to go back until maybe early 2019. But yeah, if everything goes to plan, they'll be coming to this side, and yeah, we're gonna do something cool. But we have to see. I'm not gonna say much more than that.
Now after the master in Berne and the performing award competition also on, which is I guess very time consuming energy. What are the long-term projects you have? Like what are the subjects of your interest in your practice in a near future?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it kind of just comes back to I guess what my body represents. It's always like a I guess a point in my work that I'm always trying to grappling with, especially because it's been like solo pieces or duets, and yeah, the connection of like race and masculinity and that kind of meeting point I'm very interested in. And I'm also very interested in this idea of yeah, like what that kind of represents on like a diaspora level. That's why I'm really happy to work with these guys in South Africa, 'cause I think it's really interesting to work with them, to have this conversation, to have this dialogue about what's happening with them as African men, or as African men, and yeah, how that kind of plays in with all sorts of dialogues around racism, microaggressions, and these types of things. Yeah. So this is something that'll probably always be a presence in my work. It's something that like I really don't feel the necessity to have it as a headline, but yeah, it's definitely, it has its presence and it has its place in trying to figure out the ways to yeah, navigate that.
That sounds great. That sounds like a very inspiring project for long term and very fundamental, actually.
Yeah, it's the base of yeah.
Great. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have questions you would like to address? Jeremy, as you see, he's very kind, easygoing, and will love to answer you any detail you want to know about him and his practice. No? No? Okay. So, I don't know if you'd like to add something to share us.
No, it's okay.
I think we'll ask you everything. Okay, so thank you very much, Jeremy. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So, yeah, thank you for joining this art talks, and I want to invite you to the balcony. We have a bar there, and also invite you to the next talk, which is Stefan Blumer, which is artist from Geneva who graduated from Goldsmith and is doing art research and is working in film at size and artistic practice as research. And it will be a pleasure to have you here and enjoying this series of art talks. So thank you very much for coming.